Who gets to speak for a place, right? I mean, who gets to tell the story of a place? There's so much to wrap your head around here, and there are so many, I mean, it's narrative on top of narrative, you know? And sometimes they flip over, and, you know, like it's a very complex place. I think that, you know, being here, being in Detroit, we are in the intersection of some really interesting questions, and I think it's really fruitful. I think it's really rich territory for people to explore.
It's a city that grew very organically over a long period of time, and it continues to change organically. My name is Scott Hocking. I'm an artist who's lived and worked in Detroit proper since 1996. I'm 42 years old, and I've lived in metropolitan Detroit for my entire life. So the city of Detroit is a metropolis built for almost 2 million people. And not just 2 million people, but 2 million people with the American dream, their own house, their own car, garage, front lawn. You can also get your fix for things that cities have. There's definitely aspects of a city. The scene here has aspects of a city, but it's not a major metropolis. But I've been to those places. I've spent lots of time in those places, and I like the quietude that can be found here. I like that it's not always 24 hours nonstop, awake, fast, work, crowded. So I think those qualities keep people in Detroit.
I'm Paulina Petkoski. I live in Detroit, Michigan, and I'm the co-founder of Playground Detroit.
And I'm Samantha Bankel-Sheffman. I'm Paulina's co-founder. I think what really attracts me to Detroit is, to begin, its rich history in music, in the arts, in architecture, and how that has stuck in the city. You know, it's something that we're surrounded by. You know, we have few museums and few galleries, but I think that they're really strong. We have one of the top design private art schools in the country. You know, I think that due to what exists in the opportunity of growth here is really attracting creatives from all over the world to move here and build.
I think a lot of Detroiters are very proud, more proud than other places, because a lot of people that are here are from here. I mean, this is the center of the automotive industry. There are manufacturers in Germany, there are manufacturers in France, South Korea, and Japan, but this is the center of automotive. Human mobility, short-range mobility. So everything that isn't a propeller with two wings, it's here.
Detroit, I think, has a real opportunity to become the new mixing chamber of the United States, because it has hard work and reinvention imbued in what it is, but it hasn't been an art capital. It hasn't been a place that has been, really driven to grow because of the arts, and I think that there's an opportunity here for it to grow in leaps and bounds. My name is Robert Elms. I'm the director of Galapagos Art Space. We're from Brooklyn, New York, and we moved to Detroit in 2014. There's sort of an idea of collaboration built into the ethos of Detroit, and the idea that you need to share information. You know, it's not a fully functioning city, as you can see. And so to accomplish things in a city like that, you need to really share information and collaborate. And I think we see that in the arts community, mixed in even with the urban planning community.
My name is Ashley Hennon. I'm the executive director of the Scarab Club. I grew up in Metro Detroit, spent a bit of time out in New York, but really couldn't stay away from this place. So I came back about 5 years ago. The Scarab Club is a nonprofit organization that was founded 110 years ago by artists and art lovers who came together to talk about art and make art. We're housed in a historically recognized 1928 arts and crafts style building. We host 3 gallery spaces and we have a broad artist membership. In our building, in our lounge, we have beams that serve as a kind of living guest book. And since 1928, we've had some very famous artists pass through to sign their names on our beams. So we have Diego Rivera here, we have John Sloan, Marcel Duchamp, and quite a few others.
We see a group of artists that are moving to Detroit that we consider are very important. It's sort of the pioneer group, if you will. It's the ones who want to get their hands dirty, who want to make community, who want to communicate to each other about the opportunities that they're finding and collaborating, creating work. And that's a really sort of golden time in the arts, right? So the arts need 3 things: time, space, and people to really succeed. And New York arguably has people with no time or space. And Detroit has lots of space and lots of time, and it's gaining the critical component of people. Through that, you grow a creative economy. And when you have all 3 working, you have an effective creative economy that produces good work.
Playground Detroit's an agency for creatives, so we work specifically with artists and musicians to get them jobs and commissions, and also teach them to be their own entrepreneurs. So I think that this past year especially, we've seen a ton of new small businesses open. And there's a lot of like giftable places or clothing stores, but what we're building is more of a lifestyle brand. And so we've had an e-commerce platform and online magazine from since 2012. So we've really built our audience through that. Really, our main mission is to retain and attract new talent to the city, and also to expand the market and audience so that we can be a bustling art hub internationally.
I think that art always is the progenitor of not just cities, but certain kinds of transition periods where people realize the possibilities through artistically minded people. There's many things here that you can experience that I think might be unusual to someone coming from the outside. And I think that there's a lot of amazing history here. And I think that, so some of the things that you find here that you don't find anywhere else, there is definitely a huge trend, especially in the art world, to work as a community organization, to work with community-minded. The movement towards social practice is very big in Detroit. I don't know if necessarily every artist who works like that would consider themselves a social practice artist, but they might be labeled that from the outside. And there's grant-making institutions that push for community-based projects. But yeah, it's a big part of the changes in Detroit. I have many friends who started really like their own worlds in certain neighborhoods based on this community aspect. Turned entire houses into art projects, turned entire neighborhoods into art projects, involved the community so that people who aren't really artists or in the art world are still in some way connected to the whole thing.
Galapagos is a performing arts venue. We produce theater, dance, cinema, music, a lot of indie classical, science programming, TED Talks. We're really across the board, so we're not a venue that does only one thing. And when the performance is over, we're not asking the audience to leave immediately, right? So we're not a traditional theater in that sense. We think it's important that, especially in the early part of a career of an artist, that they get a lot of feedback about the work that they're creating. So when you can keep the audience and the artist in the same space, you're getting a better response, a more detailed response to the work that the artist has created.
If people come to Detroit, what I've found is that people come with a certain expectation. And some of that expectation might be met, but I've found that a lot of people come here and are surprised by certain things. They're surprised, wow, I didn't expect this, and there's things that they find they like, and a lot of people, especially artists, come here and find themselves wanting to come back.
I mean, a lot of people talk about new Detroit and old Detroit. That's like a very long conversation to get into. But you do start to see new Detroit, like through the buildings and stuff that's happening, and there's this tension here. There's the tension between how do we retain what we've always like loved as a city of quirky, alternative, people that didn't want mainstream lifestyles, and then how do you reconcile that with giving economic development opportunities and educational opportunities to the next generation and innovate and actually get on the same level as the rest of the global community?
I think we have a long curve ahead of us in Detroit. Detroit is a city really, I think, building itself and asking itself a lot of questions and offering an opportunity for other people who want to contribute to come to the city. And I think for that reason, it's a great city to come to and to visit and to put your roots in.
To like visibly see this change happening is super surreal, and I think it's just like I feel so excited to be here as it's happening. I've always felt like every place and every city has its time and place. And
Detroit is now. That's a good word. Now is that good one word for Detroit, for sure.